Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome. In this part of the DVD, we are going to look at the Siza program and what it means to you as workers and to employers in the fresh fruit industry in South Africa. Our story starts in the workplace. The fruit that is picked on this farm and packed in the pack house is sold to shops in South Africa and other countries around the world. Workers play an important role in this process. During the season, the fruit is picked and then it is taken to the pack house to be sorted and carefully packed. Once the fruit has been packaged, it is transported from the pack house by truck to supermarkets in South Africa or to the harbor where it is loaded onto a ship and taken to different countries. People will buy fruit if it looks good, tastes good, and is sold at a good price. Nowadays, more and more people also want to know about the working conditions on the farm or in the pack house, and also how the business looks after the environment. If customers think that working conditions are not good and that the environment is not protected, they may decide not to buy the fruit. When fruit sold to supermarkets in South Africa and other countries in the world comes from a workplace where there are good labor practices and the environment is looked after, it is called ethical trade. In South Africa, we have the Siza program. This program was developed by the South African fruit industry to help workers and employers improve working conditions and to ensure everyone is treated fairly. It also helps companies to show the customer that the fruit they buy comes from farms and pack houses that are treating workers fairly and looking after the environment. In order to help with this, Siza developed guidelines or principles for the workplace. These guidelines are explained in the Siza standard. Management on this farm has agreed to follow the principles of the Siza standard. There are 8 principles that everyone in the workplace should know about. Let's have a look and see what these principles are about. Here, my good friends, Jan and Sana arrive on the farm. Jan is coming to apply for work on this farm. Let's see how the Siza standard applies to them and other workers. When you agree to work, you have chosen to do the job, and no one has forced you to do it. You can also choose to leave your job if you need to, as long as you follow the farm rules and give your employer notice that you want to leave. Jan asked for work on the farm. Women like Sana, whose husbands work on the farm, may not be forced to work there just because their husbands work there. In the same way, young people whose parents also live and work on the farm cannot be forced to work on the farm. When you start your job, you must show your employer your ID, passport, or work permit. Management will make a copy of your documents and keep this copy in the office. Management needs this information to make sure workers are old enough to work, that they are legally allowed to work in the country, and also so that they can be registered with the Unemployment Insurance Fund, UIF, and the Workmen's Compensation Fund. An employer is not allowed to keep ID documents or passports and is not allowed to ask for a deposit like money from workers in return for giving them a job. Children younger than 15 years old cannot work on the farm or in the pack house. Young people between the age of 15 and 18 may work, but they may not work more than 35 hours per week. They are also not allowed to do dangerous work that may hurt them or make them sick, like working with chemicals, working at night, or working with dangerous machinery. The law of our country says that children have the right to an education and must attend school until they turn 15 years old or they finish the 9th grade. It is everyone's responsibility to make sure children attend school. It is important for workers and management to communicate in the workplace. For example, workers and management should be able to negotiate and agree on things to ensure that both their expectations are met and that disputes or differences are sorted out in a constructive and friendly way. For this to happen, it is important for workers to speak with one voice about matters that are important to them. The law and the Siza standard say that workers can meet to discuss working conditions. Workers can join a trade union if they want to. Workers can have a workers' committee in the workplace if they want to. Committee members should be elected by the workers. Workers cannot be treated unfairly because they are members of a union or a worker committee. Remember, it is also your responsibility to work towards good communication with management and to know who the worker representatives or trade union shop stewards are. To make it easier to see who this person or people are, look for this poster in the workplace. In the workplace, there are many different kinds of people. There are men and women from different towns or from different countries. There are seasonal, casual, and permanent workers. There are people of different races and cultures who have different religions or beliefs. Everyone in the workplace must be treated fairly, and everyone must have equal opportunities for training and promotion. Discrimination in the workplace is when workers are treated differently or unfairly by fellow workers, managers, or supervisors for reasons that are not important to the work that they do. Let's look at examples of unfair discrimination. Gender discrimination. Women cannot be treated unfairly or differently just because they are women. They are entitled to the same wage as men if they do the same kind of work. They must also be considered for different positions in the workplace. For example, truck driver, tractor driver, or forklift driver. Racial discrimination. Workers may not be treated differently because of their race or because they come from a different place or country. Wages, benefits, and opportunities for training and promotion should be determined by the value of the work done and should not be related to the person. HIV. You cannot lose your job or not be given a job because you are HIV positive. This is against the law. Pregnancy. A woman cannot be dismissed or not be given a job just because she is pregnant. But it is important to remember that working on farms and in pack houses can be dangerous, and that sometimes It is not safe to work when you are pregnant. Sexual harassment. Let's have a look at the case of Pete and Sarah, who are working in the orchard. Pete is harassing Sarah. She told him to leave her alone, but he would not listen. Sarah feels uncomfortable and afraid because of what Pete is doing to her. This is called sexual harassment, and it is against the law and against the rules of the workplace. Remember, we are all responsible for making sure that people are safe in the workplace. And even if you are not the victim of such harassment or abuse, but you know someone that is, you should report it. Fair disciplinary procedure. Everyone in the workplace must be treated with fairness and respect. Everyone must know what the rules are in the workplace. There must also be fair procedures or steps that are taken when someone breaks the rules, and all workers must understand what these rules are. It is against the law for anyone to be assaulted, threatened, or insulted in the workplace. You can't be given a fine for something you did wrong. There must first be a disciplinary procedure where you are given a chance to give your side of the story. Remember, it is everyone's responsibility to treat others in the workplace with respect, to know the rules, and to follow them. Farm and packhouse work can be dangerous, and every year we hear about accidents that happen in the workplace. Employers are responsible for the health and safety of all the workers and must do all they can to make the workplace as safe as possible. Management must ensure that all workers, permanent and seasonal, receive training about risks in the workplace and how to work safely. There must be enough clean toilets and drinking water available, and where there is housing for workers, it must be clean and safe. There must be a health and safety representative who reports information about health and safety on behalf of workers. All workers must know who the health and safety representatives are and must ensure that they follow the health and safety rules in the workplace. All workers, including seasonal workers and workers doing piecework, must get paid at least the minimum wage. Remember, pack houses that are not on farmland or that pack fruit for many different farms do not fall under the minimum wage, but there is usually an agreement in place to say what wage the workers will get. On payday, you must get a pay slip that tells you what you get paid and what money has been deducted from your wages. Only deductions that you have agreed to or that are required by law, such as UIF, may be taken off your wage. All workers should get benefits such as sick leave, annual leave, maternity leave, and family responsibility leave. Contracts of employment. When you start working on a farm or in the pack house, you must get a contract. Your contract must contain the following information: the date you started work, what kind of work you will do, what your wage is, and any other terms and conditions of employment. seasonal or casual workers must also have contracts which show a starting date and a date when the work will end. The contract must also say what kind of work is expected, what the working hours are, and what the pay is. You must make sure you have a contract and that you understand what it says. If you don't understand, then you must ask your manager to explain it. Remember, if you work for a labor broker, you must also get a contract of employment. The law says that normal working hours cannot be more than 9 hours a day and 45 hours per week. You cannot work more than 15 hours overtime in a week if you work on a farm. In pack houses that are not part of the farm, you cannot work more than 10 hours overtime a week. You must get paid extra for overtime, 1.5 times your normal wage for overtime during the week, and double your normal wage for Sunday work and for work on a public holiday. Remember, your employer may ask you to exchange work on a public holiday for another day off later in the week or the month. On some farms, workers are expected to work longer hours during the season. The law says that workers can work extended hours as long as they get the same amount of time off during the quiet season. After you have worked for 5 hours, you must be given a break for lunch or tea. For example, if you start working at 7 o'clock in the morning, then you should get a lunch break at 12 o'clock. Our law also says that workers who do night work must get a night allowance. For example, spray operators who work between 8 o'clock at night and 4 o'clock in the morning. The night allowance is equal to 10% of the normal daily wage. Remember, it is your responsibility to know what your hours of work are and discuss and agree with your employer about overtime requirements. Management must provide a system to make sure that things run smoothly in the workplace and that everyone knows what to do and how to do it. This is called a management system and contains all the rules of the workplace as well as a set of instructions, also called procedures, which help us all make sure that work is done properly. Everyone involved in the business must know about these procedures. These people include all workers, permanent and seasonal workers, managers and supervisors, trade unions and worker committee representatives, customers and labor brokers. Let's have another look at the Siza standard. Management must have systems in place for fair working conditions. Forced labor is not allowed. Child labor is not allowed. Freedom of association. Discrimination is not allowed in the workplace, and fair disciplinary procedures must be followed. Health and safety in the workplace. Fair wages, benefits, and contracts of employment. Working hours may not be excessive. As we said at the beginning of this DVD, this farm has agreed to follow the Siza standard. So from time to time, people may visit to help with the implementation of the Siza standard in the workplace. These people are called ethical auditors. They will check that the conditions in the workplace follow the Siza standard. They will also talk to management and to workers to find out what is working well in the workplace and where there are things that need attention. They will work with management to put a plan in place for improvements. This process is called an ethical audit. In order to make sure the workplace is a safe and good environment, everyone must work together and follow the Siza standard. This will help the business to be successful, the fruit to be sold, and to improve working and living conditions. This completes our module about ethical trade and the Siza standard. In the next part of this DVD, we are going to look at health and safety in the workplace.